Whether you're a sports fan or not, I'm sure you'd be happy to make it to the top level of any sports. You'd probably be happy just to make it in professional sports.
100%, mate. Honestly, I'm just happy playing like semi-competitive football on the weekends. But I tell you what, our special this week has reached the pinnacle of the game in not one, but two different sports. Can you believe that?
I can't. Personally,
It's
I can't because I'm not that good at one sport, let alone two. Kat Phillips has played in the inaugural season of the AFL Women's, and she has represented Australia in ultimate Frisbee. And she's now been good enough to lend us her time. Kat, thanks so much for coming on the show.
No problem. Pumped to be here.
Now, Kat, you were actually originally born in England. When did you move to Australia?
Look, I moved to Australia as a 1-year-old. I can't really claim a lot of time over in England, and then have grown up here and lived here for my whole life.
So do you know why you moved to Australia? Obviously, you can't remember a lot of that, but do you know why?
My mum and dad were from over here. They were over there working for a couple of years, so I think they were just pretty keen to move back home and be with family more than anything.
Okay, very nice. Well, I was going to ask you whether you consider yourself Australian, but since you moved here as you was one, that's probably a yes then?
Yep, I definitely do.
Yeah, very nice. Okay, so let's get stuck into ultimate Frisbee. Now, a lot of people have played some form of Frisbee. I know I did back in the day. But for those that haven't played some sort of ultimate Frisbee, can you give the listeners a quick explanation of what ultimate Frisbee is? Like, what are some of the basic rules and what is the scoring system?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like a combination of netball and American football. So it's non-contact. You've got 7 people on the field at a time. And you basically need to throw the Frisbee between your team and try and score a try at the end. If it touches the ground, then the other team get it. If they intercept it, then they get it. You can't tackle, you can't run with it. So kind of a blend of the two of them. Games normally run up to 15. So you've got to try and get 15 tries. Each try is worth 1 point. That's basically it. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I know Ultimate Frisbee is massive in America with constantly seeing highlights in college and all their other schooling. How big would you say it is in Australia? And is it on the rise or decline?
It's definitely getting bigger over here. When I picked it up maybe 10 or 12 years ago now, there were no people my age playing. I was about 17 when I started and only a handful of people under 18 that were playing in Australia. Now we've got an under 19 state league and national league competition. We've got under 22 competitions. We've got kind of the pathway going the whole way through. Compared to America, we're still very, very small over here. Most people really pick it up when they get to uni. I think it's pretty big at the uni level in Australia now. And then once you picked it up, I think a lot of people love it and continue trying to then find a local team that they can play with or, progress through into the national team.
Sick. So what does the future look like for Ultimate Frisbee from your perspective? Do you think we'll ever see it maybe at the Olympics?
Don't know. There's a bit of an ongoing debate about that one. We have been recognised by the International Olympic Committee, which means that you're kind of on the pathway to get into the Olympics. And we compete at the World Games, which is a similar format to the Olympics, but for a lot of sports that aren't quite big enough to be there yet.
Okay.
And so I think, rugby sevens came from the World Games and then they moved up into the Olympics maybe, 8 years ago or whatever. We're in that bucket now. I think a lot of people who play probably don't really want to aim to get into the Olympics. There are a lot of parts of Ultimate that are very unique and quite different to any other sport. And people feel that maybe moving into the Olympics will take away a bit of that. But definitely I would love to see more people playing, more kids playing, and kind of continuing to build that pathway and grassroots development.
Yeah, so speaking of grassroots, when did you first start playing Ultimate Frisbee?
Yeah, I think I said 10 years ago, but now I'm looking at the year and it's more like 15. I picked it up in 2007, so I have been playing for a very long time now.
Sweet. So what made you want to pursue Ultimate Frisbee as a career? Was there sort of like a light bulb moment when you realised you had a natural talent for the sport or you really wanted to continue pursuing it?
Yeah, before I picked it up, I played a lot of netball, and coming over from netball, there are a heap of common parts to the game, so I did pick it up quite quickly. What I really loved about it and what made me want to keep playing was that there are actually no umpires at any level.
Oh, really?
So it's all refereed by the players on the field. And it means that you have a very different culture and a very different... it's all about respect for your opponent and doing the right thing. And that kind of brings in a very special group of people, in my opinion, and means that, you know, you learn a lot about communication and teamwork and being respectful and a whole lot of things that I think are very valuable in life outside of sport. And so when I got into it, and I kind of found that part of the game and I really loved it. And then other than that, I mean, I just love running. Like, I loved the game. I love throwing the Frisbee, and I love the freedom that you've got on the field. You can, all 7 people on the field can go anywhere. So unlike netball, you don't have to remain in your quadrant or your third. And I really love that. I'm naturally quite a good runner, so I really thrive being able to run all around the field.
Sweet.
So with no set referees, is that like ever an issue?
Look, it can be. I think generally it's pretty good. Like, I've played all the way up to the very top level at the World Games where you're playing, you know, for gold medals against another country, and it generally works pretty well. The rules are made in a way that you can't really get ahead by doing the wrong thing. And typically the people that play have all played for long enough and all value the fair play element of the game that they try and do the right thing.
Yeah, sweet. So, like, playing in those sort of competitions when you're playing for like a gold medal, are there lots of fans there, and does that play an impact on the game at all?
Yeah, for sure. I think probably the biggest crowd that I've played in front of was about 10,000 people over in Colombia. And that was wild, you know, louder than anything I've played in front of back home, and a really incredible environment and vibe. And obviously that increases the pressure, and you know, everyone wants to perform when you've got a big crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think, you know, that's what I love, and I hope the game continues to grow and we can keep building the fan base and the crowd.
Yeah, sweet. So you talked a little bit before about the different grades in Australia. So how did you go from, you know, playing in your local park to representing Australia on the international stage? How did you work your way up through those grades?
Yeah. Again, back when I started, it was pretty different to playing now. When I started, I played for a local uni team, actually. Even I was in year 11, I think, but they didn't have any kind of high school competition. So I played for the local Melbourne uni team. And then I got picked up by the Australian under-19 team. And that happened within maybe 4 or 5 months of me starting playing. And so I think that probably wouldn't be a typical pathway now. Now it would take a bit longer to go through. But once I played for the under-19 Australian team, I absolutely loved it. I wanted to go again. It meant we got to travel over to Canada. And, you know, we had 2.5 weeks away traveling with the team, competing at a tournament over there. It was, you know, one of the best couple of weeks of my life. So when I came home, I really wanted to do more and get better. So I went and found a local club team that I could play with in Melbourne. I played with them for a year and then tried out for the Australian Open Age group team. And I was lucky enough to make that team in 2012. And then from there, I kind of just kept going back for more.
Yeah, so I didn't realise this until doing a bit more research, but Ultimate Frisbee is actually a mixed sport throughout all competitions. You played for the Crocs, which is the Aussie mixed team. What is the difference in rules between playing mixed compared to men and women's Frisbee?
Yeah, that's a great point, and probably one of the other reasons why I love it, and I probably should have mentioned that. We do play mixed all the way up to the very top, and that's something that, again, is quite unique. You've got 7 people on the field, and you basically alternate whether you've got 4 men and 3 women or 4 women and 3 men. Other than that, having to make sure that you have the right number of men and women on the field, there are no different rules between the two.
Okay.
And so I've played in the women's team at the Australian level and the mixed team, and they're exactly the same in the way that you play, but the game style and the culture and the vibe of the team is completely different when you're playing in that kind of really equal mixed environment compared to when you play with only women or only men.
Yeah, so like that's like the only sport that we can think of where at the very top level it's still like mixed genders at the top. Is it harder to play in that, or is it easier, or what's it like playing in a pro competitive mixed team?
Yeah. Look, I love it. I think, I can't think of any other examples that are like that either. I love that it really demonstrates that men and women can be equal on the sporting field. There are no particular roles on the field that men or women have to do in the mixed game. It really depends on your skill set and what you're good at doing and how you can kind of most help the team. And so I think from a gender equity point of view, it's something that I feel really strongly about and I love. In terms of what the game looks like, the mixed game is a bit quicker. The disc moves more quickly. The men can typically throw it a bit harder and a bit further, and the style of play is a bit different. But other than that, they're pretty similar. You have got all the same rules. You've got the same type of players on the field. It's just about learning how to get the most out of all of the 7 people on your team. What we find typically at the top level is that the teams that integrate the men and the women and work together well are the teams that win. If you go out there and you try and just throw it between the men or throw it between the women, you're not going to be a very good team in the end.
Yeah, sweet. That's what I was going to ask, whether that plays a part. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, before entering a competition with whatever team it would be, say the Crocs, for example, what sort of preparation does the team do beforehand? Do you get the squad together and train a few weeks out from the comp? What's sort of the training process there?
Yeah. It's all completely volunteer and self-funded, and so there's no pay for any of the players that are playing. And so typically a team like the Crocs, we will get together maybe 4 or 5 times in the lead up to the tournament. We all come from all around the country, and so we'll have to fly to a location. We might all fly to Melbourne. We'll have a training camp together for 2 or 3 days. We'll practice, we'll learn, and then we'll go away and go back home, work on everything in our own time. We all have a pretty thorough strength and conditioning program that we do in our own time.
Yep.
And then, 4 or 5 training camps in the lead up. When we head away, we'll typically do a bit of a pre-tour where we might try and play against a bunch of other teams in the lead up to a tournament and get a bit more high pressure play. But really it's just about working hard in your own time. Given we don't all live together, we don't all train together.
Yep.
People are all working full time, and then making the most of the time that we can get together.
Yeah. So for a below average ultimate Frisbee player like myself, do you have any tips on improving their game?
The main thing would be to get out and throw as much as you can. I don't know how much throwing practice you've done before, but if you've got any kind of wind out there, if you're throwing on the beach, it can be really hard to aim the right way and kind of get the throw to do what you want it to do. And so the more you can practice your throwing, the better. And then the fitter you are, the better. I love running, and the more you run, the more effective you'll be out on the field. So they're kind of the 2 key components of the game that if you can put them together, you'll be pretty good.
Sweet. Now, let's talk about your other sport, because you also play AFL, which I think is just unbelievable that you play 2 sports. But you got to play in the very first season of the AFLW for the Melbourne Demons. Can you describe the feeling of what it was like playing in that brand new competition?
Yeah, it was pretty incredible. I think I didn't really appreciate it until I ran out for round 1. When I got drafted to Melbourne, it was a cool opportunity, and I didn't really think about what it would mean more broadly. But running out for round 1, running through the banner and looking around, and we were playing down at Cranbourne at Casey Field, and there were thousands of little girls and little boys there, wearing Melbourne kit, supporting their favourite female players. I think it really hit me then how impactful the AFLW would be for Australia more broadly and for young people in Australia. And that kind of continued the whole way through. Every game we played, you'd look out at the crowd and you'd realise the impact that we were having and the pathway that we were creating for other people. And so I think I've continued to really take pride in that and really appreciate having the opportunity to be a part of that, because it's pretty unique to get to be involved from day one and really help build something like the AFLW.
Yeah, it's an incredible, unique experience, as you say.
Yeah.
But before joining the new competition, did you actually support any AFL team beforehand?
I did. I grew up going for Collingwood. I've been a big Collingwood fan my whole life, but it's been a bit different now playing for Melbourne, then playing for St Kilda, then playing for the Bombers.
Yeah. So was it weird playing against like Collingwood when you were playing for another team? Was that weird?
Yeah, at the beginning, I think in the first year I found it weird. But pretty quickly, I think the AFLW teams formed their own unique culture within the league. And so I kind of felt that the AFLM and AFLW teams were pretty different anyway. But yes, it feels weird. I mean, now pulling on the red and black, when for 25 years I'd go to Anzac Day and be going for Collingwood, it can feel a little bit weird, but you get comfortable with it.
Nice. So, has playing Ultimate Frisbee helped you in your AFL career?
Yeah, definitely. I think that my background in Ultimate is really what enabled me to move over to football so quickly. I think the running patterns between the two are very similar. The actual strength and conditioning base that you need in terms of your cardio, your strength, your power, your agility, they're all really equivalent across the two of them. And so it meant that I had kind of all of the athletic background, and I had the understanding of the game and where to run and how to be in a good position on the field. The one part that I didn't have was really kicking, and that took a little while to get my head around because I hadn't really kicked or played footy at all growing up. But once I worked that out, it all kind of came together.
Yeah. So now, before a game, do you have any pre-game rituals or weird superstitions before Ultimate Frisbee or your AFLW game?
Not really. I kind of like to keep it pretty... I like to have a routine, but I don't like to have anything that I might not be able to do on a given day. Like, you know, if people have a lucky underwear or they put their left boot on, then the right boot on, and if that doesn't work on a given day, then I wouldn't want that to impact my performance. And so I just kind of try and turn up and, you know, get around the girls and do my prep and do my warm-up and make sure my body's feeling good.
Yeah, so no couple of Red Bulls beforehand.
No.
Nice. Now, last question. You are number 35 for the Melbourne Flames, which is the Ultimate Frisbee team that you play for in Victoria. You're number 35 for the Crocs, and you've had it in the AFL your whole career as well. Is there a story behind how you chose that number?
Oh, no, I'm going to be very boring here. No story at all.
No story?
I literally just picked a number when I first started playing. And then given every team I've moved on to, it's not been a very popular number. I've been able to keep it, but no real background to it, sorry.
No, that's all right. I just thought it would be, I thought that was interesting that you had the same number across like 6 different teams.
Yeah, I have been very happy that every new team I've gone to, nobody else has claimed it already.
Yeah, that's true. It's not like a 7 or something where everyone's like, that's my number.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Kat. It's been an amazing chat. Thanks so much for sharing your career story and giving us some insight into the world of Ultimate Frisbee and AFL.
No problem. Had a great time. Thank you.